Good afternoon, everyone. We're just going to get started in a few minutes, so hold tight, please. Thanks. I think we can get started. Please let me know if you have any difficulty hearing me. You can chat me, or everyone's currently on mute, so you can star 6 yourself and speak if you are having trouble hearing me. So thanks so much for taking the time to be on the webinar today. My name is Miho Umezawa, and I'm the project manager for Thank You Ocean and the Ocean Communicators Alliance. We're really excited to share with you our newly developed Ocean Communicators Alliance Docent Training Handbook. And before we get started, I wanted to let everyone know that this is being recorded, and the webinar will be made available on the thankyouocean.org website. And the link to the webinar and the handbook will be included in a follow-up email. And as I said earlier, everyone's currently on mute, but there will be a question and answer session after the presentation. So at that time, feel free to unmute yourself by pressing star 6 or typing your questions in the chat dialog. And I'd like to start off the presentation by giving special thanks to a few organizations. These include the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, California Academy of Sciences, National Marine Sanctuaries, Gulf of the Farallones, and the West Marin Environmental Action Committee. And these folks helped us review the handbook and also provided resources. Finally, this project is funded by the California Coastal Commission's Whaletail Grant Program. During this presentation, I plan on giving a little bit of background about the Thank You Ocean campaign and the Ocean Communicators Alliance, so you have a better sense of where we're coming from, followed by how we envision the handbooks to be used, and then most of the presentation will be about what's in the handbook, and then followed by a Q&A session. So this presentation will last roughly 30 minutes, and then I'll open it up for further discussion. Going back to what the Ocean Communicators Alliance is, the OCA is a group of more than 300 professionals in ocean-related organizations, agencies, and businesses who in the course of their work reach millions of Californians with ocean messages. Over the past year or so, the Ocean Communicators Alliance has held 4 MPA communication workshops focused on MPA messaging. And these messages are included in the handbook, and I'll get to them a little bit further in the presentation. And during these workshops, the feedback we kept receiving through workshop participants was a need for a docent training handbook like this. Many organizations have excellent docent and naturalist programs but don't have the capacity to create materials like this. And we also thought that by creating a handbook that could be used statewide, this would help streamline MPA messages being disseminated. And the Ocean Communicators Alliance also supports the statewide Thank You Ocean campaign. The Thank You Ocean campaign is a public awareness campaign through a partnership with the NOAA Office of National Marine Sanctuaries and State of California. And the marine protected areas is one of the main ocean topics Thank You Ocean has been focusing on. And we have a dedicated webpage and several podcasts about marine protected areas. The Ocean Communicators Alliance helps support the campaign through disseminating Thank You Ocean resources and working with Thank You Ocean to develop content such as this handbook. And going back to the reason why we decided to focus on docents and naturalists is because we thought that docents and naturalists play a critical role in helping to increase stewardship and educate the public on the importance of California's coast and ocean. Docents are usually on the forefront interacting with the public, and we thought it was important that they have access to MPA resources so they feel comfortable and confident when talking about marine protected areas. So we have 4 marine protected area docent training handbooks that we've developed, and these mirror the Marine Protected Area Study Regions through the Marine Life Protection Act initiative. And they're intended to be a concise resource for docents and naturalists and for those who run MPA programs. So the idea was to have these handbooks be roughly 10 to 12 pages and have really pertinent information about MPAs. And so for volunteers who aren't as familiar with MPAs, they're able to pick this up and learn about, the basics of MPAs, like the science behind it, communicating which MPAs are in your region, and then also if they wanted to learn more about a specific topic, then there's a whole bunch of resources and links at the end of the handbook so that folks can turn to those. We hope that these handbooks are used as a standalone document or is included as a chapter within an organization's existing training manual. And for organizations that have robust training programs, the feedback that we've been receiving is that they've been providing these handbooks as a supplemental material on top of all the resources that they're providing their volunteers. And the idea is not to print too many copies, but provide the handbook electronically. So as new information is made available and resources are developed, this handbook may be updated. Furthermore, rather than reinventing the wheel and creating new content, the Ocean Communicators Alliance pulled from various resources to develop the handbook. And the main resources used for these handbooks or the Department of Fish and Wildlife website, because they are the main agency in charge of managing marine protected areas, and they've not only developed a lot of content over the years, they're also reviewing a lot of the outreach and education materials coming out of various organizations. And another one we looked at was the CaliforniaMPAs.org website, and this is a statewide kind of hub for existing MPA education outreach materials. So what's in these handbooks? We broke the handbook down into 2 major sections, the first being a bigger picture look at what MPAs are, the importance of them, and the difference between federal and state marine protected areas. The second focuses more on the California network of MPAs and drills further down, specifically in the North Coast region. We also have information about ocean etiquette and guidelines for viewing wildlife, information on how to get more involved with your local MPAs, and links to additional resources. And at this point, I'm going to start talking about what is in the handbook. And so this might be a refresher for some of you that are more familiar with marine protected areas. So talking about MPAs, they're a place designed to help protect and restore marine life and habitats in the ocean. MPAs are among the most useful tools for helping protect the ocean, complementing other conservation efforts by providing a place for marine life to recover and thrive. Documented benefits of MPAs across the globe include higher abundance and larger size of fish, invertebrates, and plants, increased biodiversity, and greater biomass of targeted fish species. Overall, MPAs provide natural classrooms, cherished recreational spots, and opportunities for exploration. Within California waters, there's both state and federal marine protected areas, and over the past century, more than 1,700 MPAs have been created in U.S. waters by a mix of federal, state, and local legislation, voter initiatives and regulations, and fishery management. There's numerous federal agencies that manage MPAs, and they can include national parks, estuarine reserves, research reserves, marine sanctuaries, wildlife refuge, and fishery reserves. And for example, the National Marine Sanctuary has 14 National Marine Sanctuaries. And in California, there's 4 National Marine Sanctuaries, and these include the Channel Islands, Cordell Bay, Gulf of the Farallones, and Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. And for the North Central Coast region, we have 3 National Marine Sanctuaries. So in the handbook, we provide more detail about Cordell Bay, Gulf of the Farallones, and the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. Moving on to California's network of MPAs, we have 124, and it covers approximately 16% of all coastal state waters. To account for regional differences, the state created 5 distinct MPA regions along California's 1,100-mile coastline from south to north. And the 5 regions include the South Coast, the Central Coast, the San Francisco Bay, which is currently on hold, the North Central Coast is what we're talking about today, which is from Alder Creek near Point Arena to Pigeon Point, and the North Coast. And along with, talking about these MPAs, we also included a little bit of information about the administrative process. And we decided to include this information because we think it's a really unique process, but we also recognize that it does get complex really quickly. And so we encourage docents and naturalists to have a broad understanding of it, but to not really get too bogged down about it. But the administrative process was designed through a very collaborative process. So in each of the regions, a group of local, knowledgeable stakeholders work together using science guidelines to map out MPAs for each region. These stakeholders included commercial and recreational anglers, tribal and government representatives, educators, researchers, and conservationists. And within the North Central Coast MPAs, this was the second of the region to establish a network of MPAs, and the region encompasses really biological diverse marine habitats and includes Point Reyes Peninsula, Bodega Bay Headlands, and the tide pools of Mentara and Gristle Cove. And MPAs in the North Central Coast region went into effect on May 1st of 2010, and there's 25 newer modified MPAs that cover roughly 20% of the North Central Coast region. Within this handbook, we also include a list of commonly found species benefiting from North Central Coast MPAs. And when determining these commonly found species, we looked back at the MPA site selection process and what came out of it. There was a group of scientists that got together and, based on various criteria, determined how different species would benefit from marine protected areas. And the criteria that they looked at was if a species occurred within the North Central Coast MPA, if they're taken directly or indirectly in commercial or recreational fisheries, and if they have life history characteristics that make them more conducive to protection by MPAs, such as sedentary behavior, long lifespans, a relatively small home range, slow growth, or association with habitats that need spatial protection. And so the list that we came up with ranked the highest within this exercise and includes cabezon, Brandt's cormorant, common mirror, red abalone, stellar sea lion, and wolf eel. And when we looked at this list, we tried to identify, a wide range of species. So not only your charismatic megafauna, but some of your lesser well-known species that are benefiting from the North Central Coast MPAs. And once these MPAs have been in place, monitoring and research has been a critical component in managing marine protected areas. So we included a section of what is happening in regards to monitoring research. So the monitoring in the North Central Coast region as well as statewide is guided by the MPA monitoring framework, and it's been developed by various state agencies, including the Ocean Protection Council and the Ocean Science Trust and the Department of Fish and Wildlife, to ensure monitoring meets the requirements of the Marine Life Protection Act. So that's the law that designated this whole process and created the network of marine protected areas. And monitoring is being implemented in two complementary stages, the first one being a baseline program, which was completed in 2013 for the North Central Coast region, and the second one is a long-term monitoring, which is being built upon the foundation of the baseline program. And what's unique about this baseline monitoring is that it provides a benchmark of conditions to assess future ocean changes and MPA performance, while long-term monitoring will provide data on how MPAs are impacting the marine environment on the longer time scale. So in the handbook, we do link to the summary of the MPA baseline program that just came out, and so they looked at 11 projects, and it was a huge undertaking by this region. The Ocean Protection Council supported it by allocating $4 million, and so this provided a regional snapshot in the North Central Coast region. And you can also get more information by going to the oceanspaces.org website, and it's also a great platform to just, if you're interested in a particular research topic or study, then that's the place to go to find additional information. And another key component of the handbook is communicating about MPAs, and so we included tips about when interacting with the public or visitors to how to best engage and effectively communicate about MPAs. And this comes from the Ocean Communicators Alliance members, what we've experienced through the Thank You Ocean campaign, as well as a PR firm called Resource Media. So the first one that came out was to avoid abbreviation. So I've been using marine protected areas of MPAs pretty loosely during this presentation, just because I think that most of you are familiar with the concept of MPAs, but when you're out in the field and first talking about marine protected areas, we think that it's important to really say marine protected areas rather than MPAs, because a lot of people don't know what MPA means. So, and then similarly, like the MLPA process, or try to avoid acronyms and say the words. The second is to lead with local examples to really create that personal connection. And if you have your own stories about why you think or what makes this particular MPA that you work in your favorite, really talk about that. And I think that engages people and gets them to not only really be interested within this marine protected area, but want to learn more about it. And the third tip that we have is to focus on the outcome rather than the planning process. Don't talk about the administrative process so much, but emphasize that California's MPAs were designed by local citizens and really highlight the results. And talk about how these MPAs are safe havens for sea life and wonderful places for ocean enthusiasts to experience nature. And the fourth tip we have is to put people in the picture. And although MPAs benefit marine wildlife and their surrounding habitats, it's also important to note that they're not the only ones benefiting. Fishermen enjoy more bountiful catches, coastal businesses may see a boost in tourism, and tide poolers and naturalists may see more wildlife. And then the last tip we have is to use 4 key messages, which I'm going to go into next. And these 4 key messages came from a Southern California collaborative working group, and it included NGOs and aquaria. And these folks have been intimately involved with not only the site selection process, but they still continue to be heavily involved with the managing and communicating about MPAs. And these are messages that they've been using that they've experienced success with. So the first one is fertile old female fish. And this message creates a good visual and helps people understand that MPAs provide a place where some species of ocean life can feed, breed, and thrive. Certain species of big, old, fertile female fish benefit from MPA protection. The second one is talking about how MPAs are analogous to underwater parks. And this helps people understand the concept of MPAs, and it's a good way to start the conversation to say that MPAs are like parks that people visit and enjoy on land. And then once you hook them in like that, then you can talk about the name of the area, like State Marine Reserve or State Marine Park, just to limit confusion. The third key message is to talk about what you can do in a MPA. So your MPAs are really open for exploration. You can swim, dive, surf, tide pool, kayak, and watch birds and mammals. And so I think it's important to connect to a local example of an MPA and include a list of what you can do and what you can enjoy rather than talking about what you can't do. And then the fourth key message is talking about legacy. MPAs may help our kids and grandkids enjoy a healthy, productive ocean. And then since the inception of the network of the MPA statewide, there's been 2 additional key messages that have been effective, and it's California pride and prosperity. So regarding California pride, we talk about how California is leading the nation in ocean protection through the adoption of the nation's biggest network of scientifically based MPAs. And I think that, not only talking about California pride, but fostering local MPA pride is really important too, because if each of us can get visitors excited about your particular MPA, then I think that's a really nice way to elevate the conversation and, be like, oh, I was in San Diego and I went to an MPA and that was really cool. And then the same person goes up north and is like, oh, this is an MPA too. And just, being able for them to recognize that MPAs are really special places is something that I think all of us can do a better job doing. And the last one is prosperity. So our coastal ocean supports a $39 billion economy, and 75% of ocean-related jobs are in tourism and recreation. Protecting ocean hotspots is a smart investment that will pay major dividends in coming years. In addition to these key messages, we also included examples of messages to various audience groups, and these come from the Ocean Communicators Alliance MPA communication workshop that was held back in 2013. And so for the audience, the OCA members and participants that were at the workshop, we divided them into various working groups and assigned audience groups for them to focus on, and these include non-consumptive users, consumptive users, ocean-related businesses, lawmakers, and animal and nature enthusiasts. So what the group did was, after going through these 4 to 6 key MPA messages, we recognized that for certain audience groups, some of these key messages will resonate better than others. And so their exercise was to look at the 4 key messages and pick 1 or 2 that would resonate best within that audience group, and then take it a step further and really tailor that message so it resonates best within that working group. So we have examples of that, and they're all really short, pithy messages, and I think it'll be really helpful for folks to take a look at that. Another section is ocean etiquette and guidelines when viewing wildlife. So these marine wildlife viewing guidelines include stewardship principles intended to help inform the public about safe and responsible wildlife viewing practices, and sharing these guidelines will help make sure wildlife stays safe while enhancing the visitor's experience. And we also have a link for if you want to learn more about a specific guideline then we have it included in the handbook. And then the next section is about diving deeper into MPAs, and this is a short list of additional MPA-related projects and activities around the North Central Coast region. So a few that we highlighted included the MPA Watch program, the county collaboratives that are starting various projects, Reef Check California, and the Seabird Protection Network. So the idea behind this list was for folks that have a basic understanding of MPAs and really want to get more involved with MPAs, and if they're interested in scuba diving or providing citizen science and all that, then they can turn to these resources and learn more about that. And this isn't a comprehensive list, but the CaliforniaMPAs.org website has additional links and resources. And the last section is this additional resources. It has links to various education outreach materials, to different scientific articles, and this is broken down by each section of the handbook. And so, for example, there's a whole slew of links about federal marine protected areas. So it'll go through all the different national marine sanctuaries and then National MPA Center if you wanted to learn more about that. So because we wanted to keep these handbooks really concise, this is where we included a lot of information that we weren't able to include in the 10 or 12 pages of the handbook. So this pretty much sums up my presentation and what's in the handbook, and we really hope that you find these handbooks useful to your own unique individual and organizational needs, and whether it's just taking a page of the commonly found species and printing it out or laminating them and having it for the docents and naturalists at the beach, or having a copy at your organization so that docents can flip through it. We really hope that you're able to use this in your own way. And if you would like a Word version, please email me at miho@thankyouocean.org, and I'm happy to send it to you. With our follow-up email, we will send a PDF version of it. But if you want a Word version, please let me know. And then I am printing out a few spiral-bound hard copies that'll be a little bit nicer. And so if you would like one for yourself or your organization, please let me know, and I can try to get that to you. And then one last thing I wanted to share with you is how to access the training handbook. So this is the Thank You Ocean website, and if you go to Ocean Communicators Alliance and then go to the toolkit page, this has all the resources for OCA members. And if you scroll down, you'll see our public service announcements and our print advertisement that's available for your personal use. Please don't modify any of the language, but you're more than welcome to put your logo on it and print it out for your own uses. OCA Newsflash that has all the information about various projects going on within OCA members, and then this section has all the docent training handbooks available. So for the North Central Coast region, you just click on there and it will show up. And then later today, I'll post the webinar, so you'll have access to that. And if you want to share it with colleagues or volunteers who weren't able to make this, feel free to do that. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my presentation, and I am happy to answer any questions at this point. And it looks like Sia Higgins has her hand raised, so if you want to *6 and then mute yourself and talk, or type in the chat box, go for it. Okay. I am not hearing anything or seeing a question, so we'll move on. Sia, feel free email me at miho@thankyouocean.org if you want to follow up. But one other question I received was, how will I know when the handbooks are updated? And our thought is that we will probably update the handbooks maybe once a year, but as you're going through these handbooks and notice that something is missing, please email me and I'll keep track of it. But we plan on, every time we update the handbook, we'll send out an email to the Ocean Communicators Alliance. And so if you're not a member yet, make sure to go to the Ocean Communicators Alliance tab and then become a member and sign up. And there's no cost, and you can get more information on our website. So are there any other questions? Great, okay. Well, thanks everyone so much for being on the webinar, and feel free to shoot me an email if you have any questions, and we look forward to working with you all. So thanks again, and have a great afternoon. Thank you. Bye.